Let's head to Moldova now, where votes are being counted after a high-stakes election, seen as a choice, really, between closer ties with the European Union or a shift towards Moscow. The pro-European Party of Action and Solidarity, led by the current president, Mircea Barbu, is hoping to hold on to its majority. It's been facing strong opposition, though, from the Russia-leaning Patriotic Bloc, led by the former president Igor Dodon. As it stands, the Party of Action and Solidarity well ahead, with around 90% of the votes counted. Let's speak to Mircea Barbu, who is in Moldova covering those elections for us. Mircea, thank you for being with us tonight. Just set the scene on these two parties, this sharp contest in the shadow of a war next door.
Good evening. Indeed, it's been a fierce battle here, and not just today in these elections, but for the last couple of years since the war in Ukraine started. Moldova has been on high alert in terms of hybrid warfare and what the government calls election meddling. And we've seen evidence, or at least evidence presented by the police and by the prosecutors here in the last 6-12 months, and more so in the last couple of weeks. But as we're heading towards the end of tonight, what we're seeing is a pro-European majority making its way into parliament with 52, almost 53 seats as I'm watching the website as we speak. So as opposed to the 29% for the socialists. That doesn't mean there's not a strong pro-Russian voice in Moldova. Many Moldovans that I spoke with today across the country, they still feel either nostalgia, or they feel like they should have normal ties with Russia, or they have families and relatives abroad working there. But in the same time, we do have many Moldovans who work abroad in the EU and understand they live the European sort of lifestyle, if you want, with the values and the wages that the European Union offers, so much needed here back home, where the average salary is only 500-600 euros a month, and 2 in 5 Moldovans live under the poverty line, almost 2.5. So Moldova still has a lot to deal with. Even the pro-European government, led by Mircea Barbu, still has to tackle corruption, which is the main frustration of many Moldovans, including those voting for Sandu's party, PAS, but also infrastructure, a large a significant brain drain, people leaving the country in massive numbers, even under the pro-European government.
And it's really interesting that you point out there the complexity in the relationship between people of Moldova and Russia. It's very easy for us, with our distance and our context, to say surely there is no choice to be made between a pro-European party and a pro-Russia party, particularly in the current context. The truth is, as is with many of those countries that sort of border it and have been in its orbit, it is much more complex about how people feel, propaganda or otherwise.
Absolutely. I mean, the propaganda is an issue in itself. Obviously, we've seen, like I said, evidence of Russia's meddling. We've seen great investigations by our colleagues in the Moldovan media, and also attempts at bribing voters, which happened in the last presidential election. This time, the prosecutors and the chief of police with whom I spoke the other day actually said that the war was more hybrid now, more towards fake news and disinformation. It moved from paying people in hard currency into cryptocurrency. So it became more elaborate. But beyond that, just let's put that aside for a moment. Like I said, this is a very nuanced and very complicated issue for a small country as Moldova, because it neighbors Ukraine. So the war in Ukraine is on everyone's minds. Obviously, they're genuinely afraid that it's going to slowly spill over, not just because they're so close to it, but also because they have this breakaway region called Transnistria. I don't know how many listeners know about it, but it's a no man's land. It's a very interesting and weird place at the same time, where the Russian troops have been stationed for 30 or so odd years now, and also there's a strong pro-Russian minority there. I mean, about 400,000 Transnistrian citizens who Moldova say they are Moldovans indeed, and they actually voted today in the elections. And I was looking now at the results there. Obviously, the pro-Russians won clearly. So it's nuanced and I would say complicated, but genuinely the fear of war spilling over into Ukraine is on everyone's minds.
Okay, and so I think we can, with all of that sort of nuance considered, I think we can describe this as a defeat for Vladimir Putin in a place that he would have liked perhaps to have strengthened a political grip. How does it play into the wider conflict then, and Putin's relationship with Europe?
Well, it definitely it's a blow to the image, or to the to Russia's projection of soft power and what it can do. But I wouldn't call it necessarily a defeat 100%, because, like I said, Russia still has troops here, and there's still a significant proportion of the population who holds pro-Russian sentiments, and that can change and swift in the next years, even with a majority of pro-European parliament in power and a pro-European president. I mean, we've seen that with Georgia, if you remember.
Yeah.
Moldova is much more fragile in terms of its democracy and its a social and political resilience. But what can it change here? Obviously, for Putin, this defeat, as you call it, might actually pose a strategic and military problem, because if he had Moldova, he could have easily deploy Russian troops, to maybe attack Odessa, or maybe have a go at southeast Ukraine, or move weapons and soldiers into that area. So that's one aspect, the military key aspect. But it was also going to keep Romania, which is a key ally in the eastern flank, sort of on its toes, because half of Moldova has half of Moldovans do hold Romanian passports, Romanian citizenship. So having a pro-Russian government, having literally Russia next to a NATO country, would have made everyone very nervous and jumpy, just to say the least.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate it. Mircea Barbu with some really fascinating insight from Moldova as those elections play out.